Does your child experience cravings for intense movement, strong physical sensations, various textures, loud noises, and bright lights, and you've literally tried everything you can think of to satisfy their sensory-seeking needs? In today's video, we're talking about a beginner's introduction to sensory diets that addresses sensory cravings, explaining what sensory processing is, what sensory diets are, how they work, who benefits from them, how they're created, and the sensory activities that go along with them.
Welcome back to my channel. This is my sister Emma.
Hi, welcome back to Sophia's Sensory Spin.
And Emma Jess.
And Miss Jess.
Hi.
Miss Jess is back on our channel for our series, What's in Miss Jess's
Cart.
where we share multi-sensory and educational products that support and assist in creating the perfect sensory environment. Miss Jess always has new products that she shares with us.
I do. Shopping is fun. Sorry.
And today we're talking about a very exciting brand that we've previously collaborated with. We are so excited to be collaborating with them again. If you've never heard of them before, they're a brand specializing in making products for children with disabilities that helps to create the most ideal sensory environment that your child can thrive in. Whether that's your own child, a student, or a client, they have a wide variety of products for different aspects of your space. So that could be a weighted blanket for sleep, it could be a sensory swing for play, sensory activity sticks for focus, or a digital course for education. They're one of our favorite brands, and we're so excited to be back with them today. Miss Jess has some new products in her cart that she's very excited to share with us, and we are very excited to share with you. That is what we are getting into today. Miss Jess, what is in your cart today?
Well, on the Harkla website, I found a couple of items for my cart. The first product I found is a course that's titled Creating and Implementing Sensory Diet Routines to Improve Daily Activities. And the second product I saw was Harkla Sensory Sticks. Now, I'm interested in sensory diets because I think that everyone has sensory needs. When we have more knowledge and we know more about the way our senses work and how they might impact us and our students, it's really beneficial.
And we're super excited to talk about sensory diets today. But before we can talk about sensory diets, what is sensory processing? What are sensory cravings? Because we know about food cravings, but I don't think we fully understand what sensory cravings are.
True. Sensory processing is the way the brain receives and takes in information, then organizes it and responds to sensory input in order to behave in a more meaningful and consistent manner. Did you know that there are actually 8 senses in our sensory system? The 5 that we've always learned about are your sight,
See, and smell, and touch my nose, and hearing, and taste.
Those 5 are within the 8 systems, but there's 8 actual sensory systems. And our first one is visual system. And that's what we know as our sight. It's how our brain interprets what we see. It's not actually like our vision, if it's 20/20 or not. Auditory is very similar. It's what we know as sound and how our brain interprets what we're actually hearing. Number 3 would be gustatory, and that's the one that we know as taste. And gustatory system is the one that's connected to our olfactory system, which is actually number 4. Olfactory system is your smell. And we've got number 5, which is our tactile system, and that's our sense of touch. We've got tactile receptors all over our body. Then we've got proprioception, and that is our sense of movement and body position. There are senses all throughout our body and our joints and muscles that tell our brain where your body is and what it is doing. Then we get to number 7 at our vestibular system. This is our sense of movement, which is actually located in your inner ear, which means that when you actually move your head, you're activating your vestibular system. Lastly, but definitely not least, is interoception, and that is our sense of internal processing. Things like thirst, hunger, needing to use the bathroom, and when you don't feel well.
Now we know all 8, and then we also were talking about sensory cravings.
That's
what is
true.
a sensory craving?
Sensory craving, or sensory seeking, some people may have heard, when someone is seeking sensory input so that they can feel more regulated throughout the day. Some people might not be sure what or why they are seeking input.
Some examples of a sensory craving.
Because I need to watch myself.
When Sophia and I are typing, she will put the Band-Aids on her fingers. And does that help you when you're typing?
Wow, very cool.
That is very cool. So that's something that Sophia knows really helps her.
And then what's one of yours?
I would say that my sensory craving is probably touch, tactile. I'm not sure if anyone here has heard, but I really like cats. Cat. My favorite animal, the cat. You know, I know it's a shock.
Yeah.
I love cats and I like the tactile feel of things, and so it's nice to have a cat to pet when they're incredibly soft. How about you, Gemma?
Mine would probably be, I love using the olfactory. Is that smell?
Yes.
I love the smell of perfume. I love putting on perfume. I love when I can smell really nice things. Sometimes I'll put on a nice hand cream. And it always makes me feel nice and calm when I can smell something really nice. So then would you say like everyone has sensory cravings?
I would say everyone, no matter who you are, has a sensory craving.
Okay, so sensory cravings are for everyone, but I have heard that there's also specifically sensory seekers who are actually under-responsive to sensory input, and they actually crave more intense sensory experiences to feel regulated. And I've also heard that there's sensory avoiders who want less sensory input.
Ah, that's
right?
Very interesting. It's a really good point, Gemma. And when we talk about that, it's really good to know about high and low thresholds. Sometimes a person that's experiencing a sensory craving has a higher threshold for sensory input. That means that for a person to register, acknowledge, and even notice the input they require is a lot higher than somebody with a typical threshold. A low threshold sensory experience response occurs when someone is highly sensitive to a stimuli, which requires only a small amount of input to detect or react to it, which makes them more likely to be overwhelmed or bothered by certain sensory information compared to others. For instance, Sophia has a much higher threshold, like we talked about, than most people. Sensory seeking, she likes to seek a lot of different things, a lot of visual movements, a lot of body movements, tactile, and all of that is really helpful for her. Now, for lots of students, individuals, you could even do this for yourself. There's what we call a sensory diet.
What is a sensory diet?
A sensory diet are different activities that you plan and you put them in an order and you present them to an individual throughout their day to kind of help them stay cool, calm, and collected within their body. I liked about the Harkla class, and also something that I believe in that we've all talked about, is having the individual involved in the whole process. Now, Harkla, in their class, they offer different checklists that you can go over to see what different sensory responses for each of those 8 systems might be bothersome or might be helpful. And at the end, it's informal, but it gives you kind of an idea of what kinds of activities you want to target based on the sensory
These are where
needs.
the sensory activity breaks come into play.
Yes, it's also where those 8 senses come into play. This is a great course to use. When you take the course, you get a workbook, and this is the workbook that I received. And I really like the workbook. It has the whole course, the PDFs that are involved in the course. And one thing I wanted to show was this back section, and it's the sensory games and paths. And I liked it and wanted to show just because it had some colorful activities and more like specific things for you to use. Just so you can kind of see, I think it's a really great resource. The course, the workbook, all of it. And I really want to thank Harkla for having me experience it. I knew a lot of the things, but it was a really great refresher and actually gave me a lot of additional ideas. I can't say enough good things.
So then that's how you start to build a sensory diet, with these sensory activities, which we have here today. So these are the Harkla sensory activity sticks, which are so cool. What are some of these colors on here, Sophia? There's 3 specific colors on this packaging.
Blue, orange.
Yes.
Cool.
Ah, these are so cool. And then each of those colors corresponds to a different activity. So we have orange for alerting, we have purple for primitive reflex, and blue for calming activity. So we know what alerting is. It's just when you kind of are trying to wake up someone, right?
Or, yep,
get them
or
energized.
wake up your body.
And then calming is to the opposite, to relax and calm
Bring
down.
your body down.
But then what does primitive reflex mean?
Primitive reflexes develop during the neonatal period when you're a baby, and they integrate over time as the brain matures. They're present for survival and development within the early months of life. Primitive reflexes are things that are very automatic. Some examples of primitive reflexes are developing fine motor skills, balance, and some like short-term memory learning, and that's kind of that process in your brain.
So then here it has those kind of activities. These are kind of like 2-minute movement break activities that you can integrate into your sensory diet. And it's obviously very cool. There's many different categories. So Miss Jess is gonna share with us a few different examples of some of these sensory breaks.
I'm excited.
And with this also uses those the 8 senses that we talked about today.
It does.
And I just love it. I feel like this is such a fun way to go about sensory breaks. I know with sensory diets it may sound really boring, and this brings a sense of play, a sense of fun.
Yes, it does. And I like the colors too. They're fun, they're happy colors.
Yeah, the student has the ability to be able to pick this stick. It gives them autonomy and lets them, pick one, do the sensory break, and there's over 50 to choose from, which is super cool.
I love it. And I also love the fact that you can
the QR code.
use the QR code to really help you find all the activities on their website. And they have videos that go along with each activity that are like 10 to 20 seconds long, just to kind of show you an example of it.
Very cool.
Love it.
Purple, primitive reflex. Okay, so what is one of those examples? Lip pops. That's very cool.
And that's a very primitive reflex. If you think about, babies or a child, that's kind of what they do. And it's a really good oral motor activity or exercise, really for anybody. So I want you to try it. Yes! Very nice. We have close your eyes. And you can see here, there's an eye. And I would say that's because we're using our eyes for this one. This is also another good one for taking a break and just getting that system to calm down. You are limiting the visual distractions, even if it's just for a few seconds. I like with something like this to have the student also count, or you count, whichever is going to be most helpful, and do like, let's close our eyes for 3 seconds, open them for 2, close them for 3, and you kind of help and share that, the way to process that activity. Let's look at alerting. Alerting, we have, this is a good one. I like this one. Spinning, you could do it in a chair, you could do it standing up. Spinning is going to really help activate your body and get you moving, which is very good for waking our system up. Now getting back to primitive reflexes, which Sophia had picked, and she had picked our lip pops. When you're showing somebody how to kind of use sensory activities, you always want to model it for them and just kind of help them through that process. Another one we have, OMG. This one, I don't know if anyone here will be surprised, but cat whiskers, okay? How amazing is that? Of course the cat lady would pull up cat whiskers. This one I really like. You can use really anything. On the video that Harkla shows, they use the back of a marker, just like the cap on, not using a marker. But I think you could also use a paintbrush. And what they're doing is, I'm just gonna actually use this stick to show. They're painting on imaginary paint and going like this. So giving a few whiskers on the face, and it's giving that tactile response. It's allowing the individual to kind of feel different senses on their face. And so that is the cat whiskers. Those are the sensory sticks from Harkla, and I really like them. I also like the fact that they're plastic. Here in Florida, it rains all the time, so plastic is key when we have teacher materials, because you don't want it to get messed up in your teacher bag in the rain. So I really, really like these. It includes all of the sensory systems, the 8 that we've discussed. It's a really great activity. I would highly recommend it.
So those are all some really awesome things that Miss Jess shared. For Harkla, we had so much fun collaborating with them on today's video. That sensory diet course sounds amazing.
It was great.
We had so much fun using the sensory activity sticks. We will link them down below if you guys want to check it out at harkla.co. Make sure to go sign up for a digital course to get a better understanding of what it is and how to make it for your student or your client or your child. And we had so much fun having Miss Jess on. This was so much fun.
Time.
If you guys want to check out some of our other videos, check out our playlist of what's in Miss Jess's cart. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you guys can see more videos with Miss Jess. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. When I finished my Harkla course, I got a certificate. Whoa. This is my certificate of completion. Thank you, Harkla.